In this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, GPUs are getting ready to rumble. Next. Did I do that right? Who was it? Bruce Puffer?
Michael Buffer is gonna be pissed.
Whatever his name is.
I think that's copyrighted.
Really
or trademark, whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure YouTube will be flagging us before you know it.
Channel just went down. No, just kidding.
And the lawyers are spooling up. Yeah, I doubt it. Hey, welcome back to yet another episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks. I would be the half geek today because, I'm feeling like WrestleMania, I guess, probably. But we've been busy. We've been having fun with graphics cards lately, learning about them and testing them and doing all kinds of stuff with them. Marco is here with me today, and Chris, of course, as always. Marco and Chris, how are you fellas? How y'all doing?
Doing good, man.
Hanging in there.
Wow, mixing it up with the man. Yes, you're hanging in there, Chris. You said you had bags earlier. I don't know if you were leaving town or if you were just like what are you talking about?
Those are still the bags under my eyes from last stream. Haven't been sleeping too well, but neither of you, so.
No, I have not. I have not been sleeping well. I'm imbibing a torpedo. That's a delicious beer from what's the company again? The brewing company? Sierra Nevada. Yes, Sierra Nevada. Having a torpedo, Chris. Are you having any tasty beverage?
No, I skipped past the fridge today, but it'll be remedied later, I'm sure.
Yeah, Marco's opening a can of Wise Ass. I think that's what he's doing.
I have my tasty H2O.
Yes. Imbibe for us, please, on camera. There you go. That refreshing, cool, refreshing drink. The old gift from the sky, water. Hey, so lots going on this week. Absolutely flat out as usual. Q4 is ramping up from all ends of the spectrum, whether it be desktop or mobile. AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, everybody's firing. We've got briefings coming out our ears. We're on the proverbial Zoom call like all day long lately. I don't know why, but this new normal is anything but normal. I'm sorry that phrase is wrong.
The new abnormal. I hate it.
The new abnormal. That's exactly what it is.
I miss everybody. I have to get out of this office.
Tuan in the chat asks, is that Voss water or is it El Tap water?
No, it's zero water. The zero water filters are awesome. And no, this is not a paid endorsement. Those things are sick. They come with a sensor where you can test the total dispensed solids in the water and test from your tap and then test after you filter and it'll literally go to zero. It's awesome.
Oh my God. Did you see, he even dives into the freaking geekdom when he talks about his water filters. Just,
that's a nerd.
That's it. You are a nerd. All right. So let's nerd out some more. And what do you want to dive in first? What you want to save the Radeon for last?
Let's save the Radeon for last. But someone commented in the chat already, and it's confusing the hell out of me. I'm not sure if we listed something wrong. Amaterasu says, I don't know, but I think a Radeon RX 6000 is a lot better than a hypothetical GPU. Which hypothetical GPU is he talking about?
Yeah, no.
I'm confused. But let's start with the 3070.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say, let's start with the 3070 because that's a little bit more dated. That went live actually on Tuesday this week. Barely, a little bit more aged, like a fine graphics card. Here it is. I'm going to hold mine up. You got one, Marco?
I do. I have one right here too.
Flexing on the crowd. Wow.
Yeah, baby. Double barrel 3070s.
Here we go. Side by side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hang on. Okay. There you go. All righty. So very impressed with the design of this card. And we can dive into that as well. But very efficient, much smaller card. And NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3070 review breakout performance at $499. The bottom line is, or the quick, TLDR, but we're gonna do the TL with you, Marco. The TLDR is this thing's as fast as a 2080 Ti, which is roughly a $1,200 card still, which is kind of crazy. For $499, so a fraction of the cost with all of that performance. closes the gap perhaps a little bit when ray tracing is flipped on. It's a hair behind a 2080 Ti and sometimes ahead. And then if you add ray tracing, it's they're kind of on top of each other. Really good value proposition for sure. What are your thoughts beyond the high level?
So I think you summarized it perfectly. I have some, speculative thoughts that we'll get to, but yeah, no,
speculative.
I'm doing my jazz hands, but no, for $499 as of today, it's the card to get. Obviously, if you can get them, apparently they sold out as fast as the original Amperes, and they're tough to get. But if you are so lucky to be able to purchase one, and you're looking for a card in this price range, there really is no point buying anything else. It's 85 to 95% of the performance of a 2080 Ti.
Yep.
For $499, and that's across the board. Now, if you prefer like some older titles, like in some DX11 titles, it'll probably be faster than the 2080 Ti. Like it was faster in the 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra, which is a 4K high-end DX11 test. In all of the other game tests, it was either like right there, just a percentage or two behind, or just a few percentage points back from the 2080 Ti. But power is only slightly higher than a 2070 Super, and it's super quiet. So I think, right. So when Jensen was pitching this thing during the launch, he was saying faster than 2080 Ti. I think NVIDIA scaled this card back at the last minute.
Just a touch.
It's power limited in its stock configuration, and it never breaks 75C with the stock cooler, no tweaking the fan speeds. And with literally just like sliding the power slider and slightly tweaking, you can get 2.1 gigahertz out of it. So I think NVIDIA is being strategic. Is it the best card at $500 today? Yes. Could they have something better with a BIOS update? Yes. So it's a really great card for the money. Obviously, lots of stuff happening in the next few weeks with AMD's launches. But 3070 I think is awesome. But NVIDIA is playing it conservative.
Yeah, it's a game of chess for sure. Chris, I don't know if you can put the spec table up, but it's an interesting study in silicon optimization for me as well. RTX 20 might be a little small. I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Chris. RTX 2070 versus RTX 3070. You've got 5,888 CUDA cores in the 3070 versus 2,304. So over 2x the CUDA cores at roughly the same GPU clock, roughly the same or the identical memory clock, and identical memory bandwidth over that 256-bit memory interface. As you noted, not a whole lot more power for that. For those extra CUDA cores, over 2x. But performance is much faster than a 3070 for that, what is it? I don't know, maybe it's 35 watts of extra power. So impressive to see what they were able to do from an optimization standpoint, squeezing all those extra resources in this GPU, getting it down to that price point, blowing out the 2080 Ti's price point. Obviously, if it's a $1,200 card, I would think that's, certainly market driven, but also cost driven. Thoughts there, because the specs are like very interesting to look at. It's a well equipped GPU from a resource standpoint.
Yeah, NVIDIA just rebalanced everything out. So with the same memory bandwidth, although it's slightly better utilized because there is better compression inside the GPU, but it's a completely rebalanced chip. You have a lot more compute because of the doubled up integer unit, or one of them can do integer and floating point. You have a lot more ROPS, a lot more texture units. So better compute, better texturing, better pixel output with better utilized memory bandwidth. So it's an across the board performance boost, when you look at it that way. And just getting the latest edge feature set in that nice, not compact form factor, it's the typical 9.5-inch form factor, dual slot, and it's super quiet in stock mode. Yeah, I just think they balanced this particular card nearly perfectly.
Yeah, it's actually significantly smaller than a 2070. That's the other thing I liked about this. This is a very compact card. Is it small? I know it's smaller than a 2080 Ti. It's much smaller than a 2080 Ti that it's fast as. But
Yeah.
I believe it's also smaller than a 2070. I haven't compared it. I just have to go pull my 2070 out.
So it's a little smaller than 2070 Super, but it's like bigger than the smaller RTX 200 series. Like the original RTX 2060 was that really it's bigger than that, but smaller than the largest 2070, the 20 series.
Yeah. I forgot the Super actually uses the 2070 Super is actually, isn't it like a 2080 PCB or something?
It's basically a 2080, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they really optimize that. The only thing I'm not a fan of, and let's just talk about the mechanicals, that power connector on top, and now that it's pointing straight up, you are left with this pigtail no matter what you do.
Yeah.
In your case.
So, but you know what? Actually, we should point this out because this is something that kind of gets lost. I'm going to hold my card up. So
convince me otherwise.
I'm not going to convince you otherwise. I don't like the way the cable shoots out of the top either. But what you'll notice, I don't know if I can get this to focus right.
Yeah.
The PCB stops right after this connector because this is completely see-through, right?
Oh, it's tiny.
The PCB is shorter than this part of the shroud. So like this is a tiny PCB on this card. Yeah. You're definitely going to see, small form factor 3070s because you can definitely get by with a single fan and a smaller cooler. That's why this one is so cool and quiet, Yeah. So, pretty interesting product. NVIDIA, if they wanted to get nuts and boost the, the max power on the boards, they could totally overtake a 2080 Ti with this board. The only caveat, though, I guess we should have to mention this, is the 8 gigs of memory on board. So if you're gaming at 1440p on down, you're probably good for the vast majority of games. If you're a 4K gamer and you want to crank up all of the details, that 8 gigs might be limiting going forward. We just launched a review today of Watch Dogs Legion, and if you crank up the RTX and DLSS 2, it will use more than 8 gigs of frame buffer memory. I don't even think you can enable it because you don't have more than 8 gigs. You need a 3080 or 2080 Ti with the 10 gig or more. So that's something to consider. But like if you're a high frame rate gamer on a 1080p display, kick-ass card.
Yeah. Actually, looking at some of your numbers, Red Dead Redemption 2 at 4K Ultra, you're talking 50 frames per second on average. Min's at like 32. Going on to like a Metro Exodus, which is a little bit more taxing in spots, but with RTX on and DLSS, you're talking, 4K Ultra again, you're talking 50 frames per second. So yeah, interesting. That frame buffer is going to be a little bit of a limitation moving forward in terms of future proofing. I would agree. But you gotta love the value proposition. It is a cost-effective card and a very efficient card from a power and space standpoint. Any other takeaways from this thing? Quiet as heck. I mean, I put a sound meter up to it under load and it was pushing, only 41 dB for me.
No, I think it hits all the right marks. We know ampere is a known quantity at this point. We know what the feature set is. So, over and above the strong performance at the price point, you have all those cool features that NVIDIA introduced: NVIDIA Broadcast, NVIDIA Reflex. I'm probably going to pronounce this. What was it? Omniverse Machinima, which is coming. So, like, there's lots of cool features over and above just gaming performance. The encoder supports AV1 acceleration. I'm sorry, the decoder. I'm sorry.
Right.
So like it's a leading edge card basically in every respect for $500, and gaming alongside a card that was $1,200, just still $1,200, but was top end just over a month ago. That's awesome. Although the NVIDIA did kind of shoot the prices up with Turing, still in the current market landscape, it's the best $499 card. Period.
If you can get it.
If you can get it.
That's the problem, right? So we actually had a little story up today, and I actually took issue with our news guy Brandon on this one because I felt it was maybe a little harsh. But it was, let's see what he had up here. GeForce RTX 3070 online ordering was just as miserable as NVIDIA's previous Ampere launch.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. it's a little on the stern side. And NVIDIA, we were told, is, they delayed the launch so that they could, restock, get shelves, retail shelves, and let OEMs get, GPUs, loaded up and ready for order day. And we launched, off NDA, and there was even a 2-day stagger after that. Okay, boards are going to be available a couple days after. So it seemed like they were staging things. A little bit weird though. For me, why only limit it to Best Buy for Founders Edition cards on day one? I didn't understand that.
So that was
Is there a strategy there?
Well, NVIDIA didn't have the ability to do pre-orders from their store for the last launch. So they partnered with Best Buy and Micro Center to do the pre-orders and sales through there, apparently. Who knows I'm not sure how much stock they had. Obviously, it didn't play out well because people are complaining all over the place with this launch too. But this is kind of the growing pains. It's been almost 2 years without a new architecture. People are home. People are gaming more than ever. People, aren't all that money they're saving on without commuting. They're probably putting it towards gaming PCs, and cards are selling quickly. Does everybody wish there was more on the shelves? Of course. I'm sure NVIDIA wishes there was more on shelves too, because it's just more money in their pocket. But, it played out this way. People are complaining, but in a month or so, I have a feeling, no one's going to have much to say because everyone will have the cards.
Yeah, and actually, what's interesting here is in this dynamic, and we'll build up here to the Radeon RX 6000 announcement and launch and pending launch next month. You would think the conspiracy theorists that say, oh, NVIDIA is artificially limiting supply to making artificial demand and keeping prices high because they're just creating this shortage effect, this halo shortage effect, or whatever the theory is. I think it's a crock, because they know they've got some competition coming, and we'll get to that competition. It's something hasn't been in the high end for a long time now, and they want to sell anything that isn't tacked down. I gotta believe they want to just sell as many GPUs as they can right now, because pretty soon there's going to be some alternatives at these price points.
Yes and no. I don't think it's in. All right, I think NVIDIA was being conservative on quantities at launch, but not for those reasons. I think they did not want to make a boatload of these particular cards until they saw in AMD's hand. And if they had to react, there's room in the lineup for TIs and Supers, and there's obviously headroom in the chips and the memory. And if they had to react and come out with new models, they could. So I didn't think about that aspect. I think it was a balance of, all right, because we had Tony on a few weeks ago, and he explicitly said there was more amperes than Turing's.
Right. At launch.
So there physically, if that was a correct statement, and I have no reason not to believe Tony, there was more ampere than Turing. This did not happen quite as severely with Turing, right? So they made more. Could they have made even more? Probably. But I think they were like, let's not go too nuts, and let's see what the competition does, right? Because any rumors that we've heard of in upcoming GPUs, you can bet the folks inside NVIDIA have heard those too.
Yeah.
But it's they have to react to those. We just have to enjoy that stuff. Right. So it's a different strategy.
That's a good point. I didn't think that through, and that is a very good point. You need to be able to react. We know that there's probably Supers and TIs or whatever waiting in the wings at some later date. When you introduce those is the question strategically. And what do you need for inventory to screen and yield, right? To cover those. So interesting. And yeah, the higher bins, by the way, you need more product, because they don't, once you get through that, there's less yield at, theoretically. We don't know what the yields are. We'll never know. No semiconductor company reveals that. But theoretically, at the higher end SKUs, the yield is, smaller. So you need more product to yield those. This is all speculation. We can kick it around ad infinitum. We're never going to know the real deal. But it's a tough gig. I mean, it's a competitive, tough gig, and you got to react. So you can't blame them for that either, really. You really can't.
Exactly. So we should probably burn through some stuff in the chat here. What we missed?
Yeah.
So one thing, I just have to make a comment to Tuan. He was saying BitBoys had a hypothetical GPU. It actually was real, and there was pictures of somebody in the retro group that Tuan, you're a part of the group, posted the test board. They actually have it, or maybe it was the X3D group. I'm going to try to find it while we're on the cast, and I'll send it to Chris. But somebody actually posted it. It's pretty wild. And then we also had it was I believe Tuan also. No, I'm sorry, it was Blackhawk. I wonder if EVGA will make a PowerLink adapter for the new cards to route the cable better. I don't think everybody's going to use that small connector. Yeah. So for the partner boards, it's not quite an issue. You know, like I'm going to hold this up for a sec. This adapter, it's a single
1-to-1. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get it to focus, but this one's a single 8-pin to 12-pin, and it's like fat in the middle. It's just, this sticks up right out of the top of the card. It's not ideal. So it's just this particular setup without the angle and coming straight out the top. It's just a funky way to bend it. But I think partners will have different solutions there. And did we miss anything else? Did people camp out for 1000 and 2000 series? I don't remember seeing that, but I don't recall specifically. Yeah. And then we have Sanchez. He's finally using his stimulus check to buy a 6800 XT and 5900X. Probably gonna be a good choice.
Well, we'll have to see until we get those in. But yeah, interesting point about that connector. It's a 1-to-1. Do you think the OEMs? I would think the OEM cards are, probably not going to come. They're going to come with that single 8-pin because you can feed it's a 1-to-1. You can stick an 8-pin connector, one single 8-pin connector on a 3070 theoretically.
Oh yeah, one 8-pin, and that gives you headroom from overclocking too.
Yeah,
so yeah, they totally could, and they will. And most of them will, I believe. I haven't looked at lots of the partner boards yet.
Right, versus a 2070 Super, which is that 6 and 8 or is it dual 8?
Just 6 and an 8.
Yeah, I have to look at it. Yeah, interesting, cool. Well, that is the GeForce RTX 3070. Impressive card from NVIDIA. And then, you have to applaud them for, dropping the price point and being aggressive. I think there's some anticipation for what's to come next from the folks at AMD, who have clearly returned to the high end, finally, after a bit of a hiatus. AMD unveils 3 powerful Radeon RX 6000 series big Navi cards to topple NVIDIA's best. That was our headline. The intention is to topple NVIDIA's top-end cards. So that is an accurate headline. It's positive because what we're seeing here is very bold, sort of line in the sand, flag, stake in the sand, whatever you want to call it, claims by NVIDIA. They are not being shy. Here is our GPU lineup. It's a Radeon RX 6800, a Radeon RX 6800 XT, and a 6900 XT. And it matches up here, and here. It matches up versus a 3070, 3080, and an RTX 3090, which is a beast of a expensive card, $1,500. And so they're going at, they're just rifle shotting right at NVIDIA's top 3 currently for Ampere. And so, make no bones about it. They believe the numbers they showed, obviously they can back those up with product and performance. The numbers they showed were in standard rasterization. There was no ray tracing. So that's an interesting aside we can discuss. Performance relative to power consumption looks more efficient for AMD 300 watt boards. Even at the high end, the 6900 XT, and some interesting, technology at the platform level as well to work with Ryzen 5000 products. So anyways, Marco, I don't know what you just put in the chat there. That was an interesting little tweet or message you sent.
Okay. If Chris can show it later, I want to see that.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But yeah, so really bold claims, exciting sounding products, all of which have 16 gigs of onboard memory for, video memory, GDDR6. What are your thoughts? Price points are interesting. Versus a 3070, it's, they're claiming better performance, but at 579, so an $80 premium there. I think competitive pricing versus a 3080, trading blows with a 3080 at 649, so $50 less there than a 3080, which is 699 MSRP, I believe, for a Founders Edition. And then the 6900 XT at 999, again going head to head with a 3090 at 1499, $1,500. So a $500 differential there.
Yep.
Aggressive price points, except for the low end, but then again, they're offering more performance. What are your thoughts overall on this whole thing?
I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is great that, I think it's 2.5, 3 generations since AMD has had a card, a true Halo type product that can compete in this ultra high end space. So I love that they're coming back. The aggressiveness that they showed, for Zen these last few years, and the CPU side seems to have, invaded the GPU teams. And, I actually did have an off the record conversation at the 5700 XT launch with somebody from AMD and said, what we've done with CPUs, we're going to do that with GPUs. We're going to be just as aggressive. So I'm hoping that turns out to be the case and we have some crazy competition. But based on this early info, right, this is what AMD decided to disclose early out. Things are looking promising, right? So the 6800 at 579, considering they showed it basically beating a 2080 Ti across the board, I'm going to have to assume those numbers are correct, and it's going to just beat a 3070 across the board.
Right.
Right. Which means that little bit of a price premium should be justified, especially if some of the other features on the card, if developers are supporting these things fully and utilizing all the features AMD will be introducing, which should happen because these are the same architecture in the next gen console. So, game development is easing for people that want to optimize for consoles and PC. I'm going to have to assume, based on the numbers, that 6800 is going to be strong. 6800 XT, that's I'm going to say typical AMD strategy, right? It's right up there in terms of performance. Maybe doesn't win across the board, so bang, they're gonna have a little bit of a price cut there, or offer a more competitive price. That looks good. 6900 XT, really interesting, but what most people noticed, and we'll have to point out, the numbers that were posted for the 6900 XT are using a new feature called Smart Access Memory, which allows a Radeon 5000 series CPU to access all of the GPU memory. How exactly that helps performance hasn't been fully explained. I need to understand that better. But also using a one-click overclocking mode called Rage Mode, right? So we saw Rage Mode and those two features add 2 to 13% to the 6800 XT. So if you shave 2 to 13% off the tests on the 6900, it ends up trailing more than it wins against the 3090. I don't think that matters. I don't think AMD should have showed these numbers. I think they should have showed the regular old numbers, because even if it's 90% of the performance of a 3900, if it's $500 less, people are going to love it.
Yep. I would totally agree. That was my thought as well. But yeah, I don't know that rage mode, overclocking. I think the memory technology with Ryzen 5000, that's going to be interesting to look at and see what the platform advantages are there. And let's face it, now a lot of enthusiast folks are building with Ryzen CPUs these days. So, regardless, I think that's a technology that's probably potentially more of an impact, but the overclocking is like, right, you're going to goose the clocks a little bit, and how much are you going to do with an automatic overclocking, which, by the way, is also backed up by factory warranties. So it's not like you're doing anything that's going to void your warranty. So that's goodness too. To your point earlier about the 6800 versus a 3070, or in this case, a 2080 Ti is what they matched it up against. We know a 3070 is basically right on top of a 2080 Ti, wins here, loses there, kind of thing. To your point about the 6800, now you've got a card with 16 gigs of RAM. on board. And so that 4K limitation is a non-issue,
right?
For that 579 price point. So that's what I like about the card myself. You've got, versus a 3070, you've got 2x the graphics memory, the GDDR6 on board. That's a healthy, adder in cost, but a healthy, feature add for the gamer.
Yeah, I think the 6800 with like a Ryzen 5 3600X is going to be like a killer upper mainstream build. You're gonna get just awesome single thread, enough multi-thread for like the vast majority of people, unless you're like an Uber creator, with plenty of gaming performance for basically everything up to and including 4K res. So it's going to be an awesome Christmas, assuming that you can buy all this stuff.
Well, we know the 6900 XT isn't going to show up until first week of December, so that might be tight if you're interested in picking up $1,000 graphics cards. But for folks in the mainstream, the 579 and 649 price points for the 6800 and 6900 XT. That's November. That's only a couple of weeks away. I think it's November. I'm trying to think what the launch is.
I think it was the 18th, November 18th.
Are we allowed to say that? I almost stopped myself.
Yeah. No, the slide's there. The slide.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So that's right. Yeah, they did announce that. So I always check myself. I got to be careful. But yeah, that's product that's going to be available here for. Does that just before Black Friday, right? Yeah. So.
You expect me to know dates, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, the week before Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
The 18th is before, yeah.
Right. So that's a beautiful thing. Chris, would you be shopping for some Radeon just to check it out before for Black Friday?
Well, I'm definitely due for a new graphics card, so I'm very curious to see how this all shakes out. Especially since I'm looking at 1440p 144 hertz gaming. It looks like I have a lot of options, so it's just how far I want to push it, I guess.
That beast machine behind you has a 3090 in it. You're working on for Dell.
Yep, that it does. So that should be out very, very soon.
By the way, did you see the Dell folks asked if you wanted a 360 hertz panel to go with that to test it on?
So I did, and I was actually going to talk with you about that maybe as a follow-up piece, just to see, because I'm not, I in my review, I haven't really tested 1080p numbers because I've assumed that most people getting a 3090 are going to be doing 4K or at least high refresh rate 1440. But there are people who will throw a 360 hertz monitor at it. So maybe some follow-up testing with that.
I would agree. I would think it would be interesting to see how fast you can make a 3090 squeak.
Make it cry.
Yeah, at 360 hertz. Yeah, why not?
It's got to be CPU limited like crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's the question is I'm trying to remember what's under the hood for the CPU.
It's got a 10900K and 64 gigs of RAM. So, I mean, it should do about as well as anything, but
pretty good clock speed. Yeah. So yeah, the folks at AMD. So again, what's encouraging here, and even if we just, so let's just, take a grain of salt with their benchmarks. And, we're seeing some with this AMD adaptive memory technology and this overclocking, and they're kind of mixing it in, and it looks like positioning a little bit. But even if we sort of take that skepticism, if you're going to be a cynic, out of the discussion, they're at least squarely back in the conversation for high-end gaming GPUs. That's the cool thing.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you go look at the charts and you see what the 5700 XT, which was a nice card, like I'm not putting it down, right? But if you look at the 5700 XT versus 2080 Ti,
way down the bottom.
Yeah, yes, it's a 5700 XT offers more performance than the vast majority of gamers need, right? Like there's lots of casual gamers out there that don't need something as powerful as a 5700 XT. So it's a great card, right? But if you want to compete for the enthusiast mindshare, right, you got to have that Halo product that's just up at the top. And now they have that again. And that kind of, the attitude that consumers have towards those Halo products trickles down to the lower end products too. So it's just great to have. Not only is it great for consumers to have the competition, it's great for a company to have a product that some will consider the best in that market. So it's goodness all around.
Right. I feel like no matter which company you go with, any of the 6 cards we see now, you can make the case for any of them and be very, very happy with your decision.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, right? Because that's how I feel. And it seems like everybody's miserable for some reason.
No, you know what it is? It's people get polarized, right? And it's crazy. It's like, don't think of yourself as a technologist. You're not a brand loyalist. You're a lover of tech.
So there's some interesting psychology research that's been out that is not only is the power of choice very important, that people like things they choose, but people will actively dislike the thing that they don't choose.
Yes.
So as soon as someone latches onto a brand, subconsciously, whether they're aware of it or not, they've also dissociated themselves from the competition in weird ways that you really have to think a lot about it to overcome, and have to actively want to be neutral. It's so easy to be a fanboy.
And it's, even over and above fanboy, like Chris is going to agree with me on this because we've both been psychos about cameras lately.
I've chosen to agree with you, right?
Oh, you're a fanboy about Olympus, dude.
Well, I am, right? But the camera space is 10 times worse than the enthusiast gamer space.
Oh, yeah. It's
oh my gosh.
Bad.
It's crazy, the discussions. You can't even talk about stuff. I have to leave discussions because it's even worse.
Right. And mind you, every modern camera out there, probably above $1,000, is going to be an incredible camera, get incredible images, even great video.
Right.
And people will just destroy each other over, that brand's absolute trash. Like, I don't care. You could give me a Pentax as they're struggling along. I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, and Tuan just commented, Fuji, even though he's a Sony owner. So I love my Olympus gear, and when they announced this that they're selling the imaging division, I researched every single brand to see what would get me the features like my Ollie, and Fuji was the closest. I was this close to buying an XT4, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just love this damn Olympus camera so much.
Could you say you lost focus on the Fujis?
I like what you did there, Chris.
Yeah, going back to the chat here, Lane, but Babooter. I'm gonna screw up that name. I'm sorry, Lane. I'm just gonna call you Lane B. Lane B says polarized, and then those who are.
I think he's the winner of the gaming rig.
It's yeah. Hey, congratulations, buddy. Good to see you. He says polarized, and then those who are not polarized, you have choice paralysis. Yeah, you can get that too, but pick one and be good with it, right?
Too many options, also bad.
Hey, do you want to give the NVIDIA fanboys and Intel fanboys something to complain about AMD?
Yeah, please.
There's a mistake in the slide. In the AMD Smart Access Memory slide, they call it the Ryzen RX 5000 series. Probably should have ran these slides by somebody before.
Oh, yeah. A little message testing would help that, right, Mark?
Yeah,
man. plug. AMD analyst relations. Lane is a winner of our all AMD giveaway with the folks at EK Fluid Gaming, and he got his shipping info today, by the way. So he is expecting a beautiful straight piped EK Fluid Gaming rig to come to him shortly with a what's under the hood, a 3800X Ryzen 3800X and a 5700 XT. There it is right there, sans monitor, but there's the rig. Yeah, baby. Enjoy that.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Chris, before we forget, I put a picture in the chat. Is that something you could show?
I got it queued up right there.
Tuan, look at this thing. Tuan, check this out. That's the BitBoys
card. Yeah, man.
So that's two of the cards, right? There's the Tritech Micro, I think it was called, where it was like the test one where you could fit the GPU into like a socket type thing, and then there was the BitBoys, the prototypes in there. But yeah, they existed.
Didn't their technology get acquired by somebody? Where did it go? I know it got acquired by somebody.
It went to AMD and eventually ended up at Qualcomm. It was in the set-top boxes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it went to ATI. Sorry, went to ATI and then eventually to Qualcomm.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. God, we're dating ourselves.
Oh God.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what year was this?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
2001, right? I don't know, around then. It was a long time ago.
Do you guys remember number 9 computer?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I had a number 9 that it was called a Windows accelerator. They weren't 3D yet.
Yeah. 2D cards. I used to call on number 9 up here in New England, and I thought it was the coolest thing. They were building graphics cards when graphics cards were just 2D.
Listen, I'm glad that Lane won this rig because he just reminded me of something.
Yeah.
He just said my first PC had a 16 meg ATI Rage Pro Turbo.
There you go.
Tuon, who did that cool resto mod for us, made some stickers about the Rage mode in the upcoming RX 6000 series.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was joking, but Scott Watson of AMD responded and said it absolutely is a throwback to the Rage.
Yes.
So he just reminded me to mention that.
Yeah, let me I'm gonna pull up Tuon's. Did we talk about this? I think we did one podcast.
We mentioned Rage, but we did talk about that build on the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's I just linked Tuon's build. That was pretty cool. So yeah, they absolutely did. They call this Rage mode because it is a callback, a hollaback.
There's some of his
to GPU of old from the good folks at ATI.
Yeah, man. Oh man, Gunnar mentioning 3D effects. I wouldn't be in this business writing for HotHardware if it wasn't for 3D effects.
Yes, that's right. You worked for 3D effects stuff. What was your site you were at?
Voodoo3.net.
That's
but
right.
I was a computer nerd forever, right? And I kind of lost interest until the Voodoo one rekindled. So Raymond Jeffries is in the chat too. Raymond is my longtime computer buddy. He's like, oh, have you heard of these freaking Voodoo cards? I learned about it, had to get one, fell back in love with my PC, and the rest is history.
Yeah, then you came and found me, and we were all geeking out.
You found me.
Yeah, I did find you. Thank God, I might add.
When I got into real desktop computers, it was the 128 versus 256 meg graphics card, so a little further down the road.
Yeah. Well, we'll drop this link in the chat. Check out all of this stuff. This is the AMD Radeon RX 6000 launch piece that we did. It will give you all of the performance data, all of the claims that we are hoping to prove out very shortly when we get these cards in. Ryzen 5002, that's on the test bench. Everything's in the works. There is the 3070. That is a retail shipping product, currently sold out. went like hotcakes, and that's our review right there. And all good stuff. Good to have performant product at great price points too. By the way, that's what competition will do for you.
Exactly.
Anything else before we bid adieu? Any questions in the chat that we missed?
I don't think so. If you're watching and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Like the channel. We really are going to make a concerted effort to build the YouTube channel. We've been on YouTube forever, but it didn't used to be such a massive thing. So we're hoping to build a channel. If you can support us there, that would be awesome. And there's lots more on hothardware.com that we just don't get to discuss during the podcast. So absolutely go check the site every day because there's dozens of news posts and multiple articles every week. And we love you all for hanging out with us.
That's it. There you go. And I just dropped another one in the chat, something we didn't talk about on the podcast. Watch Dogs Legions. Our good old buddy Ben Funk just stepped through that with ray tracing and all that goodness turned on. Check that out if you're looking for something to play. They patched it up since then, by the way. Ben found a couple bugs, but they fixed it. So yeah, we got a ton of content. Stop on by. That's where you can find us. We're going to be announcing another giveaway shortly as well, where we got one coming and going almost every month. So stay tuned for that, where you can find us on the web at hothardware.com, twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardwarevids. As Marco said, thumbs up, subscribe. Please subscribe and thumbs up because we want to be able to let you know when we have some new content that you might enjoy thoroughly.
Agreed. And before you sign off, Lane made one more comment. Lane, if you haven't seen it, go back a couple of podcasts where Chris and I pull out vintage gear. I think it was like 3 podcasts ago, and you'll see a really funky X850 you may not have seen before.
There you go. There you go. We've been around since dirt, since before the internet it was like a string in a tin cup at one point. That's when we were doing it. So there you go.
Exactly.
And with that, we will bid you adieu, and thanks so much for stopping by.